This is where I typically do a cold open. In the biz, that's where you jump into the show before the title sequence or the intro play. Today, in honor of the cold open, I'll just say Urban Meyer's name, who had the coldest open to any head coaching debut in the NFL that I can remember. Urban, what are you doing? Welcome back to Odd Man Sports, brought to you by DraftKings. I'm your host, Brandon. I know my name, Brandon Perna. I'm also the host of That's Good Sports. I'm also 20% of Clickbait Sports, 50% of the GPS show, and 80% sure I have 300% too many shows. I'm like the Nick Cannon of sports shows nobody has heard of. All sponsored by DraftKings. On today's show, I'm going to examine Joe Burrow's recent mic drop moment. I'll share the reason behind a big drop in my bank account, and I'll examine one of the strangest falls from grace in NFL history. Dinks and dunks! Well, week one of the NFL season is officially in the sports books, which means we can finally put to bed all of the tired narratives that every football analyst spent the offseason regurgitating. Because in the first week, not a single one of Dan Campbell's players bit an opponent's kneecap. And Nick Sirianni didn't play a single game of rock, paper, scissors on the sidelines. Though he did play a vicious air guitar. Now my favorite debunked narrative? Peter Schrager of the NFL Network predicting that the Giants were going to beat the Broncos for this reason.
Sunday, there is a 9/11 20-year anniversary that is going to be so emotional for so many people in this market that this Giants team is going to feed off this so great. I don't think they will find a way to screw the pooch.
Well, guess what? The Giants did in fact screw the pooch, losing 27-13. Now, my personal favorite moment from this game, the Broncos' touchdown celebration in which they reenacted the time Teddy Bridgewater joined the dance team at his high school alma mater. And while the Broncos' execution needed work, it was still better than my attempt at reenacting Juju's latest TikTok.
These girls know that I'm nasty. I sent her back to her boyfriend with my handprint on her ass cheek.
In Cincinnati, for once, the Bengals were not the Bengals, beating the Vikings in overtime, and Jamar Chase caught a 50-yard touchdown dispelling the rumor that he can't catch an NFL football. A preseason narrative Burrow was quick to mock after the game.
I thought he was dropping everything.
And while some outlets called this a mic drop moment, I'm not so sure, because wouldn't Burrow have to immediately stand up and walk out of the press conference for it to qualify? Maybe something more like this.
I thought he was dropping everything.
Speaking of Burrow, all four second-year quarterbacks were Week 1 winners, while the rookies predictably struggled. Mac Jones probably had the best day of them all in a tight loss to the Dolphins. And before the game, Patriots reporters tweeted that the former Alabama quarterback took the field to the song Mr. Jones. 'Cause if there's one artist that gets me pumped for engaging in a combat sport, it is Adam Duritz. I was down at the New Amsterdam, staring at a yellow-haired girl. How Mr. Jones, wait, what? It was actually the rap song, Mr. Jones by Mike Jones. That makes way more sense. And speaking of the Patriots, ex-Pat Cam Newton released a video on YouTube called My Side of the Story, in which he explained his perspective behind his release.
Yeah. When you bring a Cam Newton to your facility, when you bring a Cam Newton to your franchise, people are interested.
I'm no physicist, but I'd like to make this Newton's fourth law. You can no longer refer to yourself in the third person if you are no longer a first string theory. So, how did we get here with Cam? a 32-year-old, highly respected former MVP unable to find a job in the league with 32 teams. Well, I'm gonna tell you, week 2 last year in Seattle, the Seahawks are up by 5. And on the final play, 1 more yard and the Patriots win, and thus aren't in a position to draft Mac Jones. 1 more yard and Cam Newton is still QB1, dancing on the practice field and making $14 million as the starter. Instead, he's unemployed and hanging on his high school field, talking about the glory days with his dad. What a difference a single play makes. And the NFL is filled with these crazy sliding door moments. Though this was nothing compared to the time former Bears defensive lineman Kirk Barton, after being pulled over by the cops, was involved in a literal sliding doors moment. Every time God shuts a van door, he opens a prison cell window. In college football news, former University of Iowa student Ashton Kutcher was brought in as the celebrity picker on ESPN's College Game Day in Ames.
And I'm taking the Iowa Hawkeyes to win this football game all day long.
Hearing this, I immediately went over to DraftKings and bet big against the former 2.5 men's star, taking Iowa State at plus 4.5. The Cyclones lost 27-17, and I ended up taking a bath, which is more than I can say for Ashton's kids. Turning to the NBA, it was announced this week that Iman Shumpert will appear on the next season's Dancing with the Stars. Now, this isn't the first time the former Knick has crossed into the world of pop culture, having appeared alongside wife Teyana Taylor in this Kanye West video. My reaction to this incredibly sexy video was probably the same as yours. We gotta get that man on a dancing show! And finally, on Shaq's new podcast, Charles Barkley had this to say while discussing Ben Simmons' off-season social media posts.
This is the 3rd year in a row they put up them bullshit jump shots during the summer. I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe anymore.
Now, Simmons and his NBA counterparts probably don't realize Barkley is making a Beverly Hills Cop reference.
What y'all, the second team?
We're the first team.
Yeah, we're not gonna fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
But if there's one Beverly Hills Cop line that will resonate with NBA players enjoying their offseason, it's probably actually this.
Follow your dick.
Money talks. Former Washington running back Clinton Portis, aka Sipo, made $43 million during his career. But that wasn't enough, apparently.
10 retired NFL players have been charged with fraud. 4 of them used to play for the Redskins, which includes running back Clinton Portis.
Since the charges were announced, Portis and 2 other former players, Tamarick Vanover and Robert McCune, have pleaded guilty for their roles in a healthcare benefit fraud scheme in which they submitted false claims for expensive medical equipment totaling about $3 million. Portis was apparently lured into the operation by his former teammate McCune, who, according to CNN, was the mastermind of the scheme. Though mastermind seems generous, considering how the district attorney's office became aware of the whole thing.
On more than one occasion, there were claims filed for very expensive equipment that's used to treat horses. And so when you see something like that as a claims administrator, it tends to draw your attention.
In his defense, riding Portis like a horse is a 100% accurate description of how Joe Gibbs used him in the mid-2000s. Now, my favorite part of this story is that the former players submitted phony claims for other expensive equipment, including hyperbaric oxygen chambers and ultrasound machines designed for a doctor's office to conduct women's health exams. Mr. Portis, according to your chart, the bad news is you have no cartilage in your knees. On the bright side, Mr. Portis, you're also pregnant. Odd man out. In the history of the NFL, no quarterback has ever won the Super Bowl with a man bun. This season, Aaron Rodgers hopes to change that. Rodgers, of course, is coming off an off-season in which he got engaged and traveled around the world with his fiancée, the dramatic actress Shailene Woodley. But it was their whirlwind trip to Hawaii with actor Miles Nevervax Teller and his wife which got the most press. This Hawaiian vacation ran concurrently with the HBO show White Lotus, and many of the show's central themes and motifs mirrored Rodgers' trip. Here's Aaron Rodgers receiving his lei, just like the guests in the show's opening scene. The show centers around the island's hospitality staff and their desire to exact revenge on the rich guests who they dutifully serve and resent, something Rodgers personally experienced firsthand while at dinner with the Tellers.
We are going to start with something that happened in Hawaii over Memorial Day weekend, the long one, and that involved Miles Teller, 2 men, a bathroom, and alleged punch. And it was all over his wedding. And an unpaid bill, at least according to the wedding planner.
Right around the time of the show, Aaron Rodgers also began rocking the slick back old guy haircut like Steve Zahn's character. And like the son in the show who enjoys hopping in the back of the boat with the locals, number 12 has been known to hitch a free ride. The parallels are just off the charts. So which character does Rodgers best evoke from the show? The dad, the mom, the son, the 2 hot daughters? Actually, it's none of them. Aaron is Armand, the entrenched hotel employee who's officially had enough of being told what to do by people he deems inferior to him. In this case, the Packers brass. So how does Armand deal with it? By dropping a big steaming turd right into a guest's suitcase, which is exactly what Rodgers did in last week's 38-3 loss to the Saints. Spoiler alert. No, this is a serious spoiler alert to the show, so cover your ears. Armand gets knifed in the finale, just like the Packers are going to knife Rodgers. The only question remaining, how many more suitcases will Rodgers crap in before the Pack kill off their most interesting character? All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the show, take a moment to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out the greatest sports book in all of the land, DraftKings, for all of your betting action. They even have a nice little promo code, OddMan, where they match your first deposit up to $1,000. Not too shabby. See you guys next week.